State officials insist that low oil prices are the main reason the state budget has already had a revenue failure this fiscal year. Crude oil prices have slipped below $30 a barrel more than once this week, but have managed to pull up slightly. Oklahoma's oil industry is hoping that being allowed to export crude oil for the first time since the 1970s will give prices the support needed for a rebound.
Oil tankers on the Gulf Coast are doing something they haven't done in a very long time. They don't just offload crude anymore. They are now being loaded with American-produced crude oil bound for refineries overseas. In a letter to the Oklahoma newspaper, Harold Hamm, chairman and CEO of Continental Resources, claimed that lifting the crude oil ban will be a boon to the U.S. economy and keep our enemies at bay. Hamm says it will lower American gasoline prices by up to 13 cents a gallon, create 400,000 American jobs per year, increase gross domestic product by 1%, drastically reduce the trade deficit, support American allies, and neutralize OPEC, Russia, Iran, and other dictatorial regimes. Kevin Book, managing director of the Washington, D.C.-based research firm Clearview Energy Partners, says lifting the ban on exports of U.S. crude was a significant policy shift for Congress. But that's about it for now. Book made his comments on the website Environment and Energy.
In terms of actual economic difference, well, look, today the barrels can go directly from storage to ship, and then what? The world out there may not want them as much as the world wanted them a year or 2 years ago. So long term, this is a big deal. Short term, this isn't going to stop job losses in North Dakota.
Russell Evans is executive director and research economist with the Stephen C. Agee Economic Research and Policy Institute at Oklahoma City University. He agrees lifting the ban is good news in the long term because there are overseas refiners who want U.S. crude oil.
Seek out their own contracts, their own consumers, better match the crude that we produce with the crude that other nations would like to import and consume that matches their infrastructure, their refining base, their industrial base.
Kim Hatfield is president of Crawley Petroleum Corporation. He says because of the great energy shortage of the 1970s, America's refineries were designed to work with heavy sour crude oil, which is what the U.S. mostly produced at the time. But when the shale oil revolution hit, U.S. production nearly doubled to more than 9 million barrels a day. The bad news is it's really great oil.
That additional 4 million barrels a day from shale oil is light, sweet, beautiful crude that we cannot refine.
So not all crude oil is the same, a point that Hatfield likes to make by taking the lid off a container of heavy sour crude and aiming it at your lap. It will not pour out. U.S. refineries can make product out of that kind of crude with very little capacity for Oklahoma light sweet. The world, on the other hand, is largely set up for the light sweet crude oil refining.
So it makes sense for us to export the crude that we can't refine to these countries since we're set up to import and refine this other much more heavy crude.
But that also means U.S. refiners will still be importing oil, the heavy sour stuff.
And so the question became, well, do you rework your whole refining complex? Probably not. Or do you allow the export of U.S. crude and continue to import the crude that's a better match for those facilities? That probably makes more sense.
So exporting U.S. crude won't end imports. The U.S. crude is hitting the world market when there is already a glut of oil and prices are low. The world demand for oil is going down at the same time the world's major economies are largely in a slump. All factors that the experts agree will mean no matter the lifting of the export ban, crude oil prices are going to stay low for some time to come.
This is really a long-term signal. It says to U.S. producers, if you drill the wells, if you make the investment, there will be a market for you again when overall global prices recover.
It's easier for me to foresee the bad headline that drives it to the 20s than to see the good headline that drives it to the upper 30s.
Saudi Arabia, the U.S., and Russia are all producing in the neighborhood of 10 million barrels of oil a day.
Whether it's shareholder obligations and profitability here or government budget constraints in Saudi Arabia or Russia, they need oil prices at those higher levels.
Russell Evans says the Big Three can lower that production, but that has yet to happen, and the Saudis have made it clear they intend to keep their production where it's at. So far, at least, there is little reason to believe that lifting the ban on U.S. crude oil exports will mean any real change for the economy or the oil industry. Kim Hatfield does see a chance for oil prices to reach $40 a barrel by summer and maybe $50 a barrel sometime next year. But even then, that isn't high enough for many Oklahoma oil companies to just break even.